Welcome in, One Nation, to another episode of the Hive podcast. TJ Winger joined this week by men's lacrosse head coach Steve Koudelka. Coach, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. Obviously, the season is here. We had Patrick on last week, and we were saying, okay, well, now the regular season's on the horizon. Now it's here. Starts the year out with a 25-1 win at Ferrum. And let me just get your initial thoughts from the win.
You know, it was great to go down and play at a place where we had never played before, believe it or not. Ferrum had joined the conference several years ago, but the COVID year was the year we were supposed to go play at their school, and have a lot of respect for their coach and what they're trying to do with the program. So it was excited to get down there and obviously, like you said, get the season going. It was a beautiful 60-degree day in early February, so we'll take it. And I thought we played actually pretty well, all things considering, and excited to be 1-0 and heading back home to Lynchburg.
And then after the win against Ferrum, you have the USIL D3 team named just literally about a moment or so ago before we started recording. Kyle Lewis and Michael Krause named to that list. And Kyle Lewis just looks like a guy who's going to fill up the stat sheet. Really excited to see him play once I get my eyes on him at home. And then Michael Krause, he's got a big role carved out for himself. Wins 13 of the 14 face-offs, and then he's replacing Quentin Ritchie, fifth year and a starter last year, who broke a ton of records for Lynchburg. So talk to me a little bit about Michael and his progress and his understanding. Hey, this is a big role I have to fill.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was great for going a little bit offensively. Kyle is our ex-attackman, our quarterback, and he gets a lot of people involved. And just sometimes he's a very unselfish player, but on Saturday, the opportunity presented itself several times from the score, and he did, which was great. And he gets a lot of other people involved. We got a really strong group of guys back from last year's team offensively, and our first midfield line, Riley Mitchell and Brett Rogers and Dylan Wolf, pretty talented, and then having Ryan Kenny and Jake Russ at attack. So we haven't really skipped a beat too much offensively. We got a really strong second midfield line and actually a third midfield line as well. So pretty excited about that group. But Michael, last year Quentin did a phenomenal job, not only statistically, as you can tell by what he did last year, being an All-American and All-Conference and all of that, but really took Michael under his wing, took Tyler Cooney, took, we have two other freshmen right now, Liam Zolper is a senior, really kind of helped those guys in that position as much as they could, in his fifth year and in his graduate year. And Michael, I think, learned a ton, and that kind of showed up we had a really good fall showing, did really well in the scrimmages early on, and obviously, Saturday kind of had a really, going 13 for 14, wherever it was, is outstanding. So we're excited for him and the other guys as well. They work, Coach Bradney, our volunteer coach, works with the face-off guys and really puts a tremendous amount of time and effort of his own time into those guys, and really works out really well.
Yeah, and even talking about Coach Bradney, we'll segue right into it. This is an awesome coaching staff, and Coach Bradney is the volunteer assistant. Then you also have Colin McGuire, former player here, Evan Lombardo, Seamus McDonald, and they all played in different areas on the field. Talk to me about the process of having those guys back, and also what they bring to this roster.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's special to have guys who former student athletes, right? From a recruiting standpoint, just being on. They've been on the other side of the fence. They've been students here. They've been athletes here. They've been in huge games. Coach McGuire was a freshman when he played in the national championship game. So he's got a wealth of experience, even though he's still pretty new to being our full-time assistant. He does like this. He does an awesome podcast, with a lot of our alumni and former student athletes, and it really kind of helps direct a lot of different facets of the program as our full-time assistant, and Coach Lombardo really works a lot with our offensive guys and our attackmen especially, and Seamus does a ton of stuff with our defensemen and was an All-American long pole. And so the three of those guys, it's really neat with Coach Bradney when he can be there because he's a volunteer, but there's a really cool bond between all three of them. They all interact really well. They can all have just great conversations about what is best for the program, what is best for certain players, and really have the thoughts of the student athletes in mind first, and not necessarily the wins.
Sure.
And that's a big part of what we're trying to do. And so, just very blessed to have those guys on staff. I think we work really, really well together.
Absolutely, and you kind of touched on it there. There is a lot more that goes into being a head coach than what happens wins-loss column, right? So, and I think some of it also, it's kind of natural. We all follow professional sports, right? And it's one thing, take a basketball coach or whatever. Oh, well, this person used to play guard, so they're going to get a lot better guard play.
Yeah.
Or in your case, former keeper at Gettysburg. Okay, well, the keepers could probably play pretty good.
Yeah.
And that's an entry-level thought. You could think that. And I had Patrick on last week, like I said. He said, hey, Coach K's, he's helped make me better. And that's good. But there is so much more that goes on to your plate. Also, you're an assistant AD, so there's even bigger, a role carved out for you there. But talk to me a little bit and peel back the curtain, if you can, what it is to be a head coach building a culture. You've been here for 26 years, so I know that's built upon itself as you've been here at Lynchburg. But building a culture, getting guys to buy in, and some of that's the assistant coaches as well. But some of those extra tasks that go into it, other than I'm here and I've won 300 plus games and I'm the head coach. Woo.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's the beauty of it is it doesn't stop, right? I mean, it is culture is one of those things that you're always tweaking, you're always looking at, you're always trying to get better. Our kind of our vision statement of our program is to provide, allow our student athletes to become the best versions of themselves, and using the platform of playing a collegiate sport, men's lacrosse, at a very high level that we do here, is a little bit of the guide for them, right? They're also in the classroom, they're off the field. There's a tremendous amount of time that they have that they're not with us, and so. But I think that's the biggest part about the culture is understanding that it is not stagnant. It is always improving, and sometimes you take a couple steps back and you have to reanalyze and reassess and go for a long run and kind of figure out what is it that we need to do to get better. And we've had those days, and that's part of it, and we understand that. We appreciate that. But we're also very thankful that we have a great group of alumni. We have an unbelievable alumni base that is super supportive of our program in so many different ways, and they care about this place. They care about having a degree from either it was Lynchburg College or now the University of Lynchburg. They're very proud of that, and then they're also we want them to be very proud of our program on and off the field and how we carry ourselves and what we're doing, and so we. Not that there's pressure to that, because really pressure is what you put on yourself. But we really believe that we have one of the best alumni groups in any at any level in the sport of lacrosse, and so we're very thankful for that. And then the last thing I would say to that, TJ, is you think of the season, right? We talk about it with our guys all the time. It's very finite. I mean, we have 17 games scheduled. We've played one.
Right.
So we got 16 left. And, so on Saturday at 1 o'clock this weekend against Greensboro, that is like a huge moment in time for our guys. I mean, it won't be Sunday at 1. It won't be Monday at 1. It is Saturday, February 19th, 1 o'clock. We try to provide, and with the help of you all and our athletic department, we try to do this for all our student athletes, but we really take a tremendous amount of care in the fact that the student athlete experience is a great one on game day, and we want that to be second to none. And so we understand that there's a finite number to this. So you have to, if you understand that, I think you give a little bit more, and you're willing to give on those other 5 or 6 days for that one 2-hour period of the week, just to be super special and just lay it all on the line and play the best you can.
And I think you're exactly right. And a lot of times you hear people talk about games that matter late in the year, right? 2 games left, these are big ones. But it's like, hey, they all count the same. It's 1 of 17 if you look at it as a fraction. So I think that's a really interesting point. And then also piggybacking off the culture and that alumni base, I think that serves as a really good reflection of, hey, our goal in mind is to make you the best version of yourself. And with that being like the purpose and mission statement, like you said, I think that's a really easy thing for someone, 18 to 22-year-old men. You and I were just at a leadership meeting the other day. It's easy for that age group to say, hey, you're going to make me a better person, I'm here. I'll listen. Yep. And I think you see that not only with men's lacrosse, but with a ton of different teams here. And it's been one thing that's blown me away. I've been here for 4 months. And across the board, everywhere I go, everyone's super polite. Thank you, TJ. Thanks for that. And Tim, Mark, you guys are awesome. Appreciate that. And it's little things like that where you notice, God, everybody really buys into the image here.
We're so lucky here. I think one of the things we talk about with our recruits and their families more than anything is we want you to be what we want you to be in our program, but those attributes and characteristics carry over to our entire athletic department.
Yeah.
So, we have so many teams here are so good, right? We have so many great coaches that I know either will go into someone else's office and be like, hey, let me ask you this, right? What are you doing in this situation? And our GAs and our younger coaches do the exact same thing. They all get along really well. And that absolutely trickles down to our student athletes. So when you're going to a basketball game and you see the crowd full of student athletes, or you're at a baseball game, and baseball opens up on the road this weekend, but softball was home last weekend.
Right, yeah.
You're going to see a lot of student athletes there supporting each other. We got on the bus on the way home from Ferrum, and guys were rattling off, hey, men's basketball, beat W&L, and softball split, and it was really women's basketball was winning at the time. Like, it's kind of cool to hear your own student athletes talking about that because those are their friends. And and they all live in an environment here that we're all trying to breed as much success as we can, but not only just on the field but off the field. And it's a special place because of that. And I think we live in it. We don't necessarily notice it, but like yourself, you've been here for 4 months. You've only been a couple other places, and you're looking, going, okay, this is different. This is different in a good way, and it's good to hear that because I think that's something that we need to probably promote more, honestly.
For sure. And then even going back to Saturday, women's tennis is in action, softball is playing, and the basketball team's doubleheader. It's really cool to see y'all's players being like, hey, well, we played today, but we're just a sum of the parts, right?
Yes.
And it's really cool to see that image all kind of come together. Now, going back to the actual coaching side of it, you do a whole lot with the culture side, but also I just have got to know, you talk about your first shift midfield, your second, et cetera, et cetera. It's very much like hockey. You're playing in shifts, guys coming on and off at the same time. I have a staff about half the size of your roster, and I have times where I'm like, I don't even know who's where, and it's a lot to handle. Yeah. What can you do, and what makes that process a little easier for you, managing 55 plus young men, and also making sure, hey, everybody's on top of it. They know when they're checking in and things like that.
Well, it's funny. I mean, when the guys first get on campus in the fall, we have what we call a jersey night. We have all the guys over to the house and ask them to wear their favorite, their favorite team's jersey. And it's awesome because we started to do that several years ago because the guys come in your house. We got a basketball court in the backyard, and they're shooting hoops and grabbing barbecue, whatever we have for dinner, and then when they all leave, which is 55 guys just they just rummage your house, right? But when they leave, it's really cool because my wife or my children will be like, hey, who was wearing the Carolina Michael Jordan jersey?
Sure.
And you're like, oh, that was so and so, and he is from Carolina, and he's a freshman, right? And they obviously know the older guys through the years because they've been here so long, but like it's really So it's part of it is just getting to know, spending time in like we do in the fall and through study hall and through other things. Obviously for us, we're going to know who they are, and we recruited them too, right? So we know who they are when we're recruiting them. But that is the special part of having a larger roster is the fact that you surround yourself. You surround yourself with some great people, and so when you go onto the practice field like we will this afternoon. You're around guys that care. You're around guys that want to be better.
They're invested, right?
And they're totally invested. You're driving up yesterday morning. There's a great group of guys that get out in the mornings and shoot. It's just completely volunteer. We don't drive it at all. We're there if they need our help on the days we're allowed to be there. But that is all them. It is all self-driven by the players, and they get to go play. We talked about like getting to go do something rather than having to go do something. And we're fortunate that we have a great group of young men that believe in that, and they kind of live that ideal. So, so it's great being surrounding yourself with those people, and then not only now but also, for me it's kind of neat when you have like CJ Santora who got married this summer and was one of our GAs last year who we could not be at his wedding this summer just due to scheduling conflicts and stuff, and. We had them over for dinner the other night. Him and his new wife Dana, who was a former women's soccer player here as well, And so you have these relationships that are not only just within the 4-year period, but really, throughout their hopefully their entire life. You hope to be a part of what they're doing and help out as much as you can, and just be able to share in their success that they're having is either somewhere in their personal life, which is great.
Right, and there's something to be said about a relationship that's not coach-player, it's Steve and CJ, right? And it's just y'all are companions, y'all are friends, y'all were working together day in and day out for 4 years. So that point aside, you said you only play 17 games in a year, and that's exactly right. And now that said, y'all don't make it easy on yourselves at that point either.
Nope.
So, and you could say, hey, 17, let's maybe get a little softball one in here. We can get an easier matchup. That is not the MO with y'all. And, Tufts, that's a game I cannot wait for, March 22nd. Before that, though, CNU. You see Salisbury again this year. Not too far away, Cabrini. That's after this upcoming Saturday against Greensboro, of course. Don't want to get caught looking down the schedule too much. But what is it? Is it a point of pride? Is it a chance to go see yourself against top-level competition? What goes into making that schedule and saying, hey, we want to play the best teams across the country?
Yeah, well, I think back in 2008, the path to get to the NCAA tournament back in those days was a little different than it is now. It was more win-loss percentages. It was the AQ had just kind of come early 2000s, so the formula to putting yourself in the best reason to make NCAA tournament was still being worked out by the championships committee. And so we played a really a lighter schedule that year than we normally would. We won the conference championship. We made the NCAA tournament and lost to a team that I didn't think was better than us, but we had just not played to the level of competition that we needed to on a consistent basis throughout the year. And I remember driving home from that game and just kind of saying, that is so much what and I didn't believe it. As we were doing it and going through the year, I was like, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, it's not who I am. And so after that 08 season, I just kind of made it a personal, I'm the head coach, I'm allowed to make some decisions. One of them is maybe who we schedule as best I can. You don't always get that, but and I'm like, forget this. We're going to play anybody, anywhere, anytime, because that's what I personally believe in, and I kind of love that, when I was growing up, whether high school or in college, I always wanted to play against the best, and so we, over the years, have subsequently been able to do that with our schedule, and now we're, at a point where we do play some of the best teams in the country. We can't play all of them, but you can, you can get a smattering of them, and then on top of our conference, which is, one arguably, each and every year is one of the top, best conferences in the country. And so you're doing that, and then, at the end of the day, you look at the 17 games, and like you said, you're like, wow, okay, this is going to be challenging, and whether you're on the road, you're at home, whatever time of year it is. So, but we are very proud, I think, of the fact of who we play. And it's been neat because there's been some years where we've not won the conference championship, so we've not gained the automatic qualifier in the NCAAs, but we've actually been to the Elite Eight in those years. And so, we were good. We just maybe weren't good on the day when the conference championship was played, but we knew we were good enough, and we then turned the corner and maybe had a little bit more ammunition going in the NCAA tournament and turned the corner for our guys, which was cool.
Yeah, no doubt. And part of why it's interesting, you say after the 08 season, I want to play the best of the best, and that's obviously paid dividends as the process has matured and grown. Strength of schedule is a huge part of it, and you'll talk to coaches in the fall, basketball, same thing with the spring, where it's got to have that backup just in case we don't win the conference. We got to have an appealing enough resume and schedule to be able to still get in as an at-large bid. So obviously a decision that paid dividends, and I'm really excited because it makes it to where when y'all are playing, every game has that levity and that gravitas to it. This is a big one. We might see them again in March once we get to the NCAA tournament, or once we get to the end of the spring and that day does come to fruition. So I'm really pumped up, and also as a broadcaster, it helps when there's good games to call. So you make my job a little easier in that respect. But that said, all this to talk about, I wanted to ask you one question at the end of it. What are the goals for this year? And we've talked during broadcasts at halftime. We've just talked in general, obviously the ODAC titles, insights, and you want to get back to the NCAA tournament. But I kind of wanted to just hear it come from you. Goals both on the field but also off the field. We've talked a lot about being leader of men. What are the goals in mind for that?
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple things. I mean, one, when the guys get together and we set goals for the season, the ones that just get put up right away are, we want to win the ODAC championship. We want to win a national championship. That gets put up first, and it stays there. And then we spend the majority of our time talking about what are the action items, right? What are the action items maybe on the offensive side of the ball? What are the action items on the defensive side of the ball? Face-off, riding, clearing. So within the game, what are those action items? And then to the guys' credit, they spent a lot of time, off the field as well. What do we need to do off the field to help put that best version on the field, to help us be the best version? And so they did spend some really good time in the middle of January when we came back before school started, kind of sitting down and we had kind of primed the pump a little bit over the break and given them some things to consider, which is really kind of cool. And then we have these, like, one thing that we don't really talk a lot about outside of our program, but we do have our guys are broken into these 4 different Hive groups, and so within those Hive groups they have certain parts of our campus that they're trying to help bring to our program, whether it's inclusive excellence or mental positivity. Those are 2. We did a Strengths Finder session with Dr. Owen Cardwell as we came back from the break. 3 of our, Pat Moore, who you had on last time, and Cole Nestor and Chip Quinn did a Step Up program, and they brought that and they just self-administered that to our team before the break. And so there's a lot of different things that we're trying to do also that are completely, not completely, but they're away from the realm of playing lacrosse. And but we feel like it's the beauty of having the 55 guys, right? We want to have them have conversations besides just playing a sport. We want them to sit in the cafeteria and, hey, let's talk about this, let's talk about that, and what are things we could be doing. And it's kind of it's great when the guys can start to really take ownership to that. And then we're still working on that. Actually, when we meet this afternoon, we're gonna kind of bring our 4 Hive groups up again and kind of get these guys starting to think a little bit more. Now that kind of the beginning of school year, we also understand they're college students, right? And we don't want to overwhelm them too much, but at the same time, we also know we all have room to grow, and this is a wonderful time in your life to grow with some of your best friends.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, it's been great talking to you, but this will not be the last time you're on this podcast. And you talk about those, extra elements of being a coach, being a part of a team, but also just being a part of University of Lynchburg campus life. And we're going to have a podcast here in a week, maybe 2, with Dr. Robert Canada, Dr. Jeremy Welsh, and yourself talking about the 3 pillars at the university. Kind of want to tease that out now? Yeah.
I mean, we are. We have done a great job with kind of Jeremy and Robert and I. They've done so many great things with either the DEI pillar, inclusive excellence with Dr. Canada, innovation and collaboration with Dr. Welsh, and I've kind of helped steer the leadership pillar. And once again, it's part about growing, right? And you grow by listening to those 2 gentlemen speak and all the things they have going on our campus, and we have a leadership academy going, and so it's just great. It's just been a lot of fun to be a part of. I think it's expanded my horizons on a lot of things, and I welcome. I know you're trying to get the group together, and I'm excited to sit down with those and be on a podcast with them, because you're going to be super impressed. I mean, they're fantastic people, and and the president has just done a great job of kind of allowing these 3 pillars to really take shape on our campus, and it's really neat to see.
Yeah, and I'm super excited to have that conversation with y'all, and hopefully in about a week, maybe 2 weeks' time, we'll be able to bring that here on the Hive podcast. Coach, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Be sure to check back in next week for a new episode of the Hive podcast. Till then, for Coach Koudelka, my name's TJ Wingert, and we are signing off.